Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to Canine Cannibalism. Today, we are going to be taking a look at Body Rides by Richard Laymon. Now, this book is not splatterpunk, it's not extreme horror, it's Laymon's own genre, really. I think I incorrectly called Endless Night when I reviewed that splatterpunk. His books are not splatterpunk, they are around the exact same time as a lot of the original splatterpunk stuff, but his books are more sleazy, pulpy, kind of extreme, a lot of just horniness. So not really extreme. I would still mostly consider them alt-lit, but nothing crazy. So, Body Rides. This book is 534 pages, broken up into 3 parts with a total of 76 chapters. I'll give you a quick blurb. So, our protagonist, Neil Darden, saves a woman from a maniac. As a reward, she gives him a bracelet that allows him to enter other people's bodies and go for rides. However, the murderer isn't done, and as soon as he's done with the woman, he's moving on to Neil. Gonna be doing the normal things in this video. Be doing a content sample, just kind of like a trigger warning, just a lot more robust, a lot more of a novelty thing. Be doing a pre-summary review that will not have spoilers in it. We will be doing a summary of the book, which obviously will include spoilers. We'll be doing a post-summary review, assuming I have anything else to say, and that will include spoilers. We're going to jump right into a content sample. If you were to pick up a copy of Body Rides by Richard Laymon and read it, you would find all of the following. You have your bog standard gore, torture, mutilation, and death. And in this book, that does include genital mutilation. And you also have sexual abuse, including sexual assault and incest. And that is it. We are going to get into our pre-summary review now. I got one thing to say before we jump into ratings. And I would just like to give a round of applause to this book for tackling mind reading in probably the most realistic way I've ever seen it tackled. Normally, when you deal with mind reading, it's like you'll look at someone and you hear their thoughts as if it's just somebody speaking to you, which has always been a pet peeve of mine, whenever that's been the case in any sort of media, because I don't know about the rest of you, but if somebody were to listen into my mind, it would be quite hard for them to understand anything, because there are layers and layers of thoughts and pictures and sounds and words and all of that kind of shit. I know not everyone thinks like that, but this book tackles it very well, I would say. It attacks the different layers of thought, the background thoughts, animalistic thoughts. It attacks pictures moving like movies in your mind. It attacks the words that you hear, that kind of thing, or that some people hear. Some people say they don't hear them, which is really odd to me, but whatever. So I really appreciated that, and I'd like to call that out because I thought that was very, very interesting. Now we're going to jump into our ratings. If you are unfamiliar with my rating system, I take a series of attributes of a given book and rate them on a scale from 0 to 10. These first numbers are rated on a scale from 0 to 10, where 5 is completely mid. It's not good, it's not bad. 0 is bad, 10 is great. That's pretty fucking simple. For Body Rides by Richard Laymon, your plot and plot direction is going to be a 6. Generally, I really enjoyed the plot. It's sleazy, it's pulpy, it's very, very horny. I've heard this is one of his hornier books. It has some issues, though. I really like the plot. For me, it's like 8 out of 10 level, just by itself. But there are some things that drag it down. There is a bad situation in the book where something very bad happens to someone, and our main character constantly flashes back to this situation. Like, I get it, it's a defining moment in their story arc, I understand, but it gets a bit trite, all right? Like, the 17th time the guy's like, oh, woe is me, if only this hadn't happened. I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about, my guy? It's okay, just stop. Just stop. There's a big plot point toward the end. It's phrased as being really big, but it's not. It's nothing. It does nothing for the plot. It's introduced in a way that's not very great. It's kind of a tonally whiplashy thing. I think I get into that in the tone section, but it, it's meant to be big, but it's not big. It could have just been cut out of the story and nothing would have changed. And then another thing in the same vein as the flashbacks, the story takes place in LA. There is an unnecessary amount of focus on LA being seedy, on gangstas, as they're literally put at one point in the book, on getting shot while out in the streets of LA. A lot of it is like offhand comments that do nothing for the plot, like by the main characters. There's one scene where they're driving through downtown LA, and again, in the same vein as of plot points doing absolutely fucking nothing for the book, there's a character, it's the first time they're in LA, and they flip off a guy who made a sexual motion to them, and everyone's in the car's like, no, don't do that, you'll get shot, and it's useless. As far as I can tell, Richard Laymon did not live in LA. So I don't know what the fuck this book is supposed to take place on. I guess it was written right after the riots, like a couple years after. And there's a lot of talk about that as well, in terms of all of the seediness of LA, about all the fucking riots that happened, the race riots. It really does feel like Laymon is trying to make a political point about LA being dangerous. And I really, really do not like attributing things that characters do and say to the writer, but it just feels so off the number of times that is mentioned. Similarly, and this is something I picked up on in Endless Night, this is the second time, so including Endless Night, that we get a character randomly and quite jarringly arguing for Second Amendment rights, specifically in this book because LA is so dangerous. In the last book, I don't even know if I touched on it when I did my review, the dad, who was a cop, randomly started talking about how every American needs guns, because if only the cops have guns, then everyone will die, or whatever. Or no, it was something about the cops aren't allowed to carry automatic weapons, which means that only the bad guys get to carry them. In that book, at least it made kind of sense, because it just kind of felt right for the character. It kind of naturally flowed with the rest of the text. It was a little bit jarring, but in this book, after the bad thing that happens that I mentioned, the character had to use his gun during the bad thing, but he doesn't have the gun legally. Okay, he doesn't have the gun legally. He has an illegal firearm. While sobbing about the bad thing happening, or no, not even while sobbing, the thing that pushes him over the edge to start sobbing and breaking down is the mention of his firearm being illegal. And then he goes on a rant about, like, how fucked up is it that you shoot a criminal with an illegal firearm and then you end up being the bad guy? And it's like he's breaking down, sobbing about the situation, but he's not actually sobbing about the situation. He's sobbing because Second Amendment rights or something. It's really dumb. It's really dumb. It does nothing for his character, except showing you that it doesn't even show you anything. It's just fucking dumb. It feels like the author is literally trying to speak through the character. And again, I really don't like attributing things the characters say to author thoughts, but it really is what it feels like. I'm not saying that necessarily Richard Laymon is attempting to use his books to argue for Second Amendment rights, but it really does feel that way. I don't know. It was dumb. It was dumb. I'll just leave it at that. For your tone, it's a 5. As I mentioned, there is a part of the book that is meant to be a major plot point, but it's not really a major plot point. Aside from that, the way that it is introduced is incredibly jarring. All right? It's not introduced well. Part of that, I think, is because that's how it's supposed to be introduced. It was supposed to be the character mentions something about this plot point, and they mention it very offhand. And that was intentional, and it feels very jarring like that because it was intentional. But aside from that, aside from what I believe to have been intentional, it's so whiplashy. You go from, it just did not fit well. It just did not fit well, and I get part of that may have been on purpose, but generally, I don't care. It really just did not fit well at all. Stick around. I'll let you know what the plot points are that I've been alluding to. For your characters and character development, it was a 7. One of our main characters, it's really hard to talk around this stuff without spoilers. You saw the title of the video. This is going to be light spoilers, all right? One of our main characters in the Polycule, the polyamorous relationship, okay? The relationship kind of gets sprung on her. And her mental state, her going through dealing with that, dealing with her boyfriend cheating on her with another woman and then being like, hey, let's all be a unit. It's never touched on. It just kind of feels like she gets run over and we're just supposed to accept that she's completely fine with that. There is an allusion to a possibility that that may be something that she wanted, but it's never like we never dive into it. So it kind of feels like we're just supposed to pretend that she wouldn't care just because the book wants to be horny and have a threesome. I don't think that particularly works very well, considering overall she's a very intelligent woman and her character is very, very intelligent throughout the book. It just feels kind of contrived, if that makes sense. Our other main character, the other woman in the Polycule, is great. I love her character development. I love her character. I think her dialogue is fun. She speaks in a southern accent. I've complained about that a lot in the past, but at least here it's readable. I think she's just a great character. I think the protagonist was also done incredibly well. You know, your grammar and typos is going to be a 5. Didn't notice any typos. Didn't notice any poor usages of grammar. Nothing blew me away. It's a 5. For your dialogue, it's going to be a 7. This is kind of in the same vein as dialogue, but the narration style, which is from like POV of the character, I really like it. I like his quirky and quippy narration that he uses, and I also like, I mean, given the nature of the book, it's kind of like we're hearing the character's thoughts. I believe it's still third person, but it kind of is narrated by a specific character. I like the narration style. A lot of the dialogue is also quirky and quippy. I think that might have been something I complained about in Endless Night, but I'm beginning to warm up to it. I think specifically for how wild and horny this book is, I think it works quite a bit. For your prose, going to be a 5. Like with the grammar and typos, I did not notice anything necessarily about the prose. It was fine. It was run-of-the-mill. Nothing blew me away. Nothing was abysmal. It was perfectly serviceable. And your personal enjoyment's going to be an 8. I thought it was a great time. I had a great time. I read it all. It was wonderful. It's pretty fucking long comparatively to the rest of the books that I've been reading for this channel. So do with that information what you will, but I personally enjoyed it. It was long. It wasn't tedious. I had fun. These next two numbers are your disturbing factor and your gross out factor. They are each rated on a scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is not gross, not disturbing. 10 is the most gross, the most disturbing that you can imagine. 4. Body Rides by Richard Laymon. Your disturbing factor is a 4. Pretty fucking disturbing. There is torture. There is death. There is torture death. There is heavily implied sexual assault and rape to a number of characters. It's pretty fucked. We get some pretty in-depth descriptions of violence. Pretty disturbing. Pretty disturbing. Your gross out factor is going to be a 0. There's nothing gross in this book. There's some like personal hygiene issues, descriptions of people sweating through their clothes, that kind of stuff, but I mean, it's a 0. Compared to the ones that I've given, it's nothing. It's nothing. That does not mean anything in terms of how good or bad the book is. It just is a factor. A fact as I am putting it. It is a completely separate thing to the quality of the book. You can have good books, you can have bad books that have a lot of violence, no violence, really gross, not gross at all. We are going to jump into a plot summary now. Heavy spoiler warning. If you do not want spoilers, this is the point to click off of the video. As always, if you were to go and read this book after hearing my plot summary, you would still have a very, very different experience. On top of the fact that it is a summary, I purposefully shorten my summaries even farther to leave out certain plot points, so to ensure that you will have a different experience. On top of that, things like tone, they will never get through in a plot summary, though I may try sometimes. I would highly recommend you go and read Body Rides by Richard Laymon, form your own opinions, even if you listen to my summary. It's a good book, at least in my opinion. I would recommend it. Form your own opinions. That's always good. And let's jump into it. So, Neil Darden, our protagonist, out late to return some videos, stumbles across a woman named Elise tied to a tree and being tortured off a back road. He shoots her attacker and drives her home. She gives him a bracelet that, when kissed, allows the wearer's consciousness to exit their body, fly weightlessly and undetected through the environment, and enter someone else's body, in a process Elise calls hitching. Once inside, the wearer will experience everything the person they are riding experiences, including all of the five senses and all of their thoughts. Neil leaves her house. His curiosity gets the better of him, and he returns to the scene of the crime, whereupon he finds the maniac's body gone. He quickly kisses the bracelet and goes flying back through the air to Elise's house and enters her. He then watches helplessly as she is attacked by the maniac. He drives quickly in an attempt to arrive before the maniac, who he has dubbed Rasputin, given that he clearly cannot die, can kill her. He is too late, however, and finds Elise bound, mutilated, and dead in her tub. A business card he had given to her is missing, presumably taken by Rasputin. Now, that is the awful event that I was alluding to with the backstory, the flashbacks, that kind of shit. Neil returns home and confesses to his girlfriend Marta everything except the bracelet. They decide it is best that he stays with her. When she leaves to go to work, he goes hitching in an attempt to watch for Rasputin near his apartment. During this, he ends up in one of his neighbors and watches her relive a past sexual experience with a man named Darren. She then has a breakdown, and Neil presumes her lover has broken her heart or died. Neil decides to prove that the bracelet works once and for all. He goes to his neighbor's apartment and pretends to be friends with Darren. During their conversation, she realizes that he is lying when he refers to Darren as having left her. She states that Darren is her brother. She finds out that, somehow, Neil knows of her incestuous past and attacks him. Neil flees with wounds on his arms. He decides it best to stay away from Marta until the wounds heal, lest he have to explain the bracelet. He also does not want to run into Rasputin or have him figure out that Marta is his girlfriend, and thus he goes on a road trip. During the trip, he picks up an 18-ish-year-old girl named Sue. I don't remember if she was 19. I believe she's 18 in the book that she says that, but she also could be 19. Either way, she's above age. That's made very clear. Or at least it's attempted to be made very clear. There's also some question about what her actual age is by the main character at one point, because she lies about her age to be able to drink, that kind of stuff. So she's legal. Let's just say that. She's legal. She's 18 or above. Sue inadvertently finds out about the bracelet, and he has to explain the story to her. They head to an amusement park, Neil's original destination, and begin to fall in love with each other. And then they fuck, and it's a very drawn-out, descriptive scene. Neil then returns back to LA with Sue. Marta, already having gotten a call about Sue, is not pleased. However, she allows him and Sue to return to her apartment. She immediately figures out that Neil has cheated on her, but decides she does not want to lose Neil, and Neil does not want to lose her either. Neil claims that he loves them both equally. Neil then goes hitching and ends up in Rasputin as he enters Neil's apartment. He figures out that Rasputin's name is Leslie Glitt, and he also figures out that Leslie is going to be paid $500,000 for the job on Elise. Neil and Sue break the news about the bracelet to Marta. She eventually believes them, but swears to never try it, stating that it is a major invasion of privacy. Neil tells them both about Leslie and the money, and Elise's actor husband Vince, who she was in the process of divorcing, is the most likely to have paid to have her handled. They decide that, at least. The three concoct a plan. Marta and Sue in bikinis will show up to Vince's house and pretend to be friends of Elise. They will distract him while Neil rides him and searches for clues. They will probe him with questions to get him thinking how they want, and then Neil will sneak in and steal the money. The plan, somehow, goes off nearly without a hitch. They end up having to confront Vince and knock him out, but they get the money, and the three get away. Neil also knows where Vince was going to drop the money for Leslie. The three then decide, for reasons that still somewhat escape me, that it is best if they were to watch the place where Vince is supposed to drop the money, both to ensure he hasn't scrounged up anymore and to possibly ride Glitt so that they can find out where he lives. I'll talk about it more at the end of the review. Those are the reasons given. I have some issues with that, but we'll get there talk about it after the review, after the plot summary. Vince arrives and drops off a bag. Neil exits the car and approaches it. It's full of books. Glitt arrives and, not knowing what Neil looks like, confronts him as a stranger. When Glitt realizes that he's been stiffed, he flies into a rage. Just then, a carload of gangbangers hired by Vince drive by and shoot at Glitt and, by association, Neil. Neil is killed and Glitt escapes. Marta and Sue rush to Vince's house. Sue goes ahead after kissing the bracelet, enters Vince, and watches as he is attacked and tortured by Glitt. The two women arrive and manage to overpower Glitt. After stabbing him, and while attempting to throw him into the pool to drown him, he rises, pulls the knife out of his chest, and tries to kill them. He is then shot multiple times by Marta. Once in the pool, which they are attempting to drown him, which I found... I only noticed after the fact, the reference to Rasputin there. which I'm pretty sure they also tried to stab him as well, and then that didn't work, which again, here, I think that's just a funny parallel that the author is drawing. Anyway, once in the pool, Marta slashes his throat and guts him. When she jumps back in to retrieve the gun she used to shoot him, he tries to attack her again. The two then decide it is best to dismember him. Later, Marta and Sue are still together. They mourn Neil. Marta finally kisses the bracelet to try it, and Neil immediately takes control of her unconscious body. He explains that he kissed the bracelet right before he died and entered her. Marta returns to her body and vows to go off hitching so that Neil can have turns living as her. The three are as happy as they can be, and the book ends. Now, what was that plot point I was referring to that was absolutely nothing? Marta's pregnant. They have a big old threesome, and then Marta announces that she's pregnant. Right after. So not like threesome related, but just in general. She announces that Neil is the baby, or the baby daddy. And, yeah, does absolutely nothing for the plot. It's brought up multiple times, but it literally has no bearing on anything. And I found it to be absolutely useless. So, let's talk plot contrivances here for a second. Stealing the money from Vince, I get it, alright? It's a fuck ton of money. They have a pretty good inkling that he is the person who has the money, and they want to get back at him for paying to have his wonderful wife, who Neil also fell in love with in the 12 hours they were together. They want him to be paid back in full. Going to the video store where the money is being dropped off, I don't even know if I said that, but it was a video store, in order to make sure that no more money is dropped off and to possibly ride Glit. I kind of understand, and I understand the more I think about it, all right? You want to make sure Vince is paid back. You want to make sure Glit isn't actually paid. You want to potentially find out where the fuck Glit lives so that you can have him fucked, or you can kill him. They want to kill him because the main reason they want Glit killed is because they're worried that even if they moved, changed their name, yada yada yada, he'd always be searching for them because Neil shot him. Even though he has no idea what Neil looks like because when he was shot it was dark. Even though he has no idea that Neil associates himself with two women, he vaguely has a sense that Neil had a friend at his apartment at one point, but he doesn't actually know anything. On top of this, they've just come into the possession of $500,000, which is a fuck ton of money, especially for, when was it, right after the riots, so 90-something, I believe. Whatever time it was, that's a shit ton of fucking money. That's a shit ton of money now, but it's even more then. There would be, in my mind, no reason for them to risk life and limb again to go and make sure Vince gets his comeuppance, potentially find where Rasputin is. And the reasoning, which was given by Marta, by the way, doesn't really track, considering they could absolutely disappear and he would never find them. And for a character that is so intelligent throughout most of the book, it's kind of saddening for me to see her bafflingly stupid reasoning be taken at face value, because it seems like the author just needed that to happen for the plot. He needed Neil to die. It's a small thing. It really irked me originally when the decision was made in the book, but as we go on, it was kind of explained more and more, and I slowly started to understand. But it really does just seem like we need to force this along. Maybe that's a commentary on revenge kills you, because one of the main reasons they want, or if not the main reason they wanted to go and watch, was to make sure that their revenge happened, that Vince was fucked with, and that maybe they could kill Glit. So maybe it's a commentary on revenge eats you alive. I doubt it, given the content of the book. I don't think this is a book that is necessarily meant to be intelligent with its commentary. I mean, again, outright, the character breaks down because 2A rights or whatever. So I don't necessarily think the book is intending to be intelligent with what it is trying to get across. But I could be wrong. And again, the reasoning kind of makes sense, but I still think it's fucking stupid. And that's my opinion. You know what? That's my fucking opinion. I think it's stupid. So, that is it for our video today. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Please, for the love of God, help the algorithm decide that I don't need to be shadow banned. my opinions are my opinions and my opinions alone. I would highly recommend, again, that you go and read Body Rides by Richard Laymon. Form your own opinions. That's what it's normal to do as a fucking human being. Please do that. What else? Anything else? Book reviews every Friday. I will be reviewing a book by Aaron Beauregard again next, so stick around for that. And yeah, that's about it. See ya.